Hi everyone, welcome to our next episode of Booze and Brews.
Welcome. Yes, indeed.
Cheers.
Cheers. Okay. All right. Well, I don't know what episode we're on, but thank you for all of you that are continuing to follow. That's really awesome.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
I have another owl mug today. This is the third one that I think I've used on
Owl mug
episodes.
number 3.
I've used one at the holidays, which is a holiday owl mug. I have one that's more springy, but I've used that one already. So I came with this is my original owl mug.
Are you that into owls, or is this just like a thing that's happened?
I think that the two other mugs were a thing that happened because, you know, the whole like idea when people are like, if you could be an animal, what animal would you be?
You would pick an owl.
At some point, I said an owl because they're wise, and I want to be wise. Like, you're right. I don't want to just be whoever. I want to be, you know, wise. So I think that's kind of what happened with the whole idea of the owls.
Breaker, in the middle of the night last night, was barking at the owls.
Oh, super.
It's fantastic. Super. Yes. As soon as I open my windows, he's my scaredy dog. So he doesn't leave the covers or under the covers or the bed at all. But at some wee hour of the morning, the owl in the woods hoots. I've never actually seen the owl. I'm kind of curious, like, is he a little owl or a big owl? I have no idea. I have no idea.
Not like a great horned owl. It's probably not that.
I have no idea what kind of owl he is. But he hoots, and it's loud, you know, travels. His little hooty voice travels.
I think hoot is a funny word.
It is a funny word. Anyway, so Breaker had a meltdown. He does not like birds, owls and crows in particular. So he barked for quite a while last night at the owl. Not ever leaving the bed, just barking.
Oh, well, sure.
Yeah, of course.
We had a fox running around last night screaming.
Oh, that's a lovely sound too.
That's
screaming
a scary
fox.
sound.
It is a screaming.
You don't know that it's a fox.
Well, when I first moved to the woods, I had to Google that sound because I was like, "What is that? Is there someone being murdered or something? I don't know what's happening."
It's like the I don't know. It's probably a true story, but it's La Llorona, I think, and maybe it's South America, maybe it's Mexico. I can't remember where the story took place, but that's a literal screaming woman that you hear at night.
Oh, well, that's scary.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'll have nightmares
of that.
That's not
apparently a fox, but you know, it's a.
Gosh, Breaker and I will both be up. Okay.
Anyhow, we're really off topic.
We are very off topic.
Show your mug, because you didn't do your mug
I didn't do my mug yet. It's okay. So my mug is one of the last ones in the cabinet that I haven't done yet. So this is one of these ones from Shutterfly or some other kind of company that I made it from. Whatever time. So it's family. And funny it's in the back. You know why it's in the back of my cabinet? Because it's small and it's literally 1 cup of coffee, and that's not.
Like,
I need like a massive mug.
No, that should be my next one.
Yeah.
My big gallon.
You have that mug. It's really funny. Anyway, I kind of chuckled because it was family, faith, and love on this one, and when I didn't pick it on purpose with our topic today, so that was kind of fun because I was filling the mug with coffee and I glanced down and I kind of chuckled because today we wanted to get into talking about religion and spirituality, and this is a topic that I don't often dive into. I mean, in my personal life I do, but when it comes to commentary and putting it out there on the internet where anyone can view it, I kind of tampered down. I kind of keep that under wraps for a bunch of reasons. Number one, I try to avoid the haters, you know, so I don't like to put out a lot of things that are controversial because, you know, people in the comments, of course you're going to have a comment, you're not going to agree, you're going to disagree. Fine. It's all fine. I know there's people who aren't going to agree. I know there's people who will disagree. Why you want to continue to listen to something that you vehemently disagree with, I have no idea. Unless it's just to put out a weird robot comment, I have no idea. But you know, all that stuff brings down my vibe, so I try to avoid all that. But also, I have a piece of hair in my mouth. Sorry, that was random and gross. Probably, I apologize. In any case, I don't want anyone to think that we're propaganding or trying to change anybody's mind or
convince you of something,
convince
or
you,
tell you what's the right way, like none of that,
or to change your beliefs or anything like that. Like everyone's free to choose what they are free to choose, and believe and think and feel, and that's not, I never see that as my position. I always want to be very judgment free and very open to, whatever works for you is wonderful. And that's great that it works for you. At the same time, I get a lot of questions and in the realm of religion and spirituality. So I guess it's good to touch on it and to talk about it a bit.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that there's a lot of people who kind of lump religion and spirituality into the same thing. And that's not necessarily true.
It's not.
Maybe for some people it's true, and maybe for some people it's not true. But a lot of times I'm going to say there seems to be more of a distinction between the two.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I was chuckling at the cup with the word faith on it, because I think that faith is a noun and a verb at the same time. And when people say, well, what faith are you? They're looking to know what denomination of religious sect you affiliate with, where you belong, where you fit. But I see faith more as a verb, and it's something that you have and that you feel and that you generate and that you live by, more than a category.
Yep,
Category.
Category is a good word.
So in that regard, the same thing with religion and spirituality, where I feel like people mix them and it's the same. And it's not necessarily the same. Spirituality is embedded in religion. But you can have spirituality outside of religion as well. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so that's the point to kind of that I wanted to touch on. And spirituality is a big concept. And when you take it out of the context of whatever religious sect you're talking about, it really is something that unites all of them, all people, all types of belief systems, basically in believing that there's something more. There's something out there. There's something bigger than us. And I have long felt like we would be naive to think that we're the only ones. And there are people, obviously, who believe that. And that's fine, Definitely not looking to change your opinion. But in my opinion, in my experience, I feel like there's something bigger. There's something larger than us going on. And I get all the time, because I'm a medium. And people all the time, that kind of throws me off guard, and they'll say, well, do you believe in God? Are you Christian? Do you believe in God? Yeah, I definitely don't think these have to be mutually exclusive things. Yes, I do believe in God. I do believe in a higher consciousness, and you can call it whatever you want, whether it's a greater consciousness, God-like,
universal energy, it's
right, spirit, however you want to define source, how, universal energy, like Lynn said, however you define that collection of energy is up to you. So if you want to call it God or God-like, that's fine. Yeah. So yes, I do believe in that. And for the curious people, I was raised Catholic. So I came in to spirituality with a lot of rules, a lot of rules and religion and what you're supposed to believe. And I was raised very, I guess I'll use the word devout Catholic, in that, they were very much into the church. And
this was the way.
This is the way, yes. This is what you believe in, this is how it works. And from a very young age, I do feel like I questioned a lot of things that didn't really make a lot of sense to me. And I don't want to get into a whole Catholicism speech about this, but things that we did in the church, it made sense to me as a structure of a church. But I started to see a very early age, I'm going to say probably 5th and 6th grade, that there was a differentiation about God and then the church, and that they were different beings all by themselves. And that's a big concept for a little kid. But I really remember, yes.
It's a big concept for not
adults.
A little kid.
But I very much remember the moment of, we were in church and we were at Mass, and then they were talking about confession, the sermon. And I kept thinking, why do I need that? Because can't I just talk to God? Can I just have that connection? Because I'm pretty sure I have that connection. And then as a kid, I'm thinking like, well, maybe I could ask. And then I thought, well, I'm Catholic. I don't know, maybe we don't really ask a lot. So maybe I don't ask. And then I think like, well, maybe I should do I ask God? Like, where do I go with this conversation in my head? Because I very much felt like I already had that connection and I already had a direct line. I didn't understand why I needed a middleman. And it never really made sense to me. It just didn't make sense to me. And I feel like that's where a lot of my curiosity started, where
middleman is really kind of making me chuckle right now.
well, right. And they are teachers and they're mentors and they're, spreading the good words and good deeds and things like that. And the lessons that we can learn from the parables. And that's all wonderful. It all makes sense to me. But yeah, starting to understand that there's a difference in the structure versus the belief, it was a big thing. It was a big thing in my life. And, and I would say to this day, if I was forced, sounds like a terrible word, I'm talking about religion, but forced to choose a church to go into, I would probably still go into a Catholic church because it's familiar, right? Like, and that's just familiar to me. And I know the routine, I know all of the rituals that we're going to do in that service. And, it makes sense to me to a degree and it's comfortable. And I think that when it comes to religion, we are taught a certain way as a kid, if that's introduced to you. And we carry on those traditions because it's comfortable. It starts to be, this is what you do. Like, this is your routine. Yeah. So, but starting to think about the differentiations between the lessons versus the structure of a church, which is a business. It's truly a business. So we don't like to think of it like that, but it is. Just like government is a business, just like schools are business. They're all businesses. And they all have to operate as such in order to remain what they are, because there's no other way to do that. Mm-hmm. So in any case, spirituality it to me is much, much bigger than just following the rules of any religion that it's putting out there. Religion, it creates a lot of structure, and that's fine. It's fine if you want to do that, but you can be spiritual without being in a religion per se, right? I mean,
absolutely. There's plenty of people who we probably would call them atheists, who don't believe in any particular religion or God, or
right. So we're it, and
but doesn't mean that they don't have spiritual beliefs and that they don't believe that there is something else, or there's something that has generated, and pushed things forward over the years. So it's
even evolution or however it works, but I think that not we all agree. I'm not going to say that because we all probably don't agree, but I think it's common to understand that when everybody has a soul, we have a body and we have a soul, and the body is grown organically, but the soul, we don't talk about that being organically grown. Like, did it, you just come with it, right? Like, you come with a soul. Where did it come from? Where did it grow? Like, that doesn't even sound right to me. Like, that doesn't even feel
soul grow.
Right. I mean, that doesn't
sound like something you put on your grass or something.
Like preen, like, here you go. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that a lot of us feel like we have a body, we have a soul, and that we are a soul being in a human form. So the soul, when it passes on, we also believe, like, if we listened to the podcast last time about past lives, the soul continues, even though the body falls away, it disappears. Just like the body was born, the body passes. And so it's energy, right? The soul is energy. We just can't physically see it. So therefore we don't understand, because we can't see, you don't understand. And I always go back to my cell phone analogy. I have no idea how my cell phone works, but there are clearly,
I think we said this in the last one. I was talking about the fax machine. Like, I'm still trying to understand.
Right, like it clearly works, even though I can't see the signals coming into it. I can't see it. Same thing with the soul, right? There's energy, and some people can see the soul or the aura and things like that, and other people can't. But the fact that we can't see it doesn't mean it's not there.
Do you know what that indicates?
Faith.
Faith.
Right.
Faith that you have a soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
The soul, you know, like I think people can surely define soul in a bunch of different ways. And it's really going to depend on maybe part of your religion, maybe just part of your upbringing, what you've been told when you were younger and you kind of
or what you
form your
feel
own.
or what you figured out.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think for myself, I can kind of like picture it. It's kind of like wispy and like, you know, it's sometimes even my moral compass, my, you know, like angel on my shoulder, reminding me of doing the good things or what I consider good things.
Yeah.
Those kind of, you know, so I think that, but it goes deeper.
Or exploring your purpose. Like, why are you here? Why did you choose this time to come back to? What is your role here? And a lot of us spend a lot of our lives trying to decide what our role is and what we're supposed to be doing. And to be honest, it could be large, but it could be very small too. Like the one thing you could have been doing might have taken a couple seconds of your whole existence. And that was your whole purpose, but you live the whole life for those couple seconds. And then I think we get caught up in the whole ego idea of, well, that's not enough. That's not enough. Like I spent 100 years doing something that took a couple seconds. Maybe you did.
Maybe
and it is enough if that was your,
but
was your purpose.
Well, and depends on, you could be talking about something that feels so minuscule at the moment, but it has set a trajectory for maybe
like the
hundreds of
butterfly
other people.
effect.
Yeah, where you're just kind of like, you know, at this point, something happens, you do something, and then the timeline for the trajectory, really not the timeline, the trajectory for who knows, one person even, but that if that's your purpose, if that's your point, then it's enough.
And some people are here as light workers, as light beings, and what that means is that you vibrate on everything. Vibrates, every single thing vibrates. And no, we have a hard time scientifically understanding the quantum physics of that because it looks solid, it looks like it's a thing, but it's all vibrating. The materials all vibrate, including ourselves and our souls, right? So we emit a vibration, and it's undeniable when someone walks into a room and the vibe shifts. Like you can feel it, you can feel it, you can feel it, you can feel it. So that is energy, that is vibration. And some people are literally just vibrating on a frequency that brings the vibration as a collective up. And that's your role. Like your role is just to vibrate at that frequency. And wherever you go, you start to tune that. You elevate. You elevate the whole room, the whole environment, and you bring it up. Same thing with, found it very interesting about traveling because I love to travel. And I'm always really, I always find it funny when people don't want to do anything. Like they want their homebodies, they don't want to stay anywhere. And then I recently heard in a podcast or whatever, like, you know, not everybody's meant to travel and see everything. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's so beautiful out there. How can you not? Because we leave an imprint everywhere we go. And some imprints are meant to be, and I'm going to assume mine is because I like to travel, meant to be spread out and meant to be shared and left in certain places. Other people's aren't. And it's not because they're I'm not saying if you don't want to travel, like we don't want your imprint, but you're not supposed to be in those places at that time to leave an imprint. So I find it very interesting.
Very interesting because I also really like to travel and see things, and I feel very comfortable in nature and very much want to seek it out wherever we kind of go. You know, if we're picking things to do, I'm like, let's go to the national park, let's go to the state forest, let's go look at these trees. And probably seen these trees, but look at them again. And I don't know, it's just something that I'm always drawn to. But there must be a reason.
Right. And it's funny because when we talk about the soul, I tend to let my kid come about these things organically also, like the topics and the conversations. So one day we're in the car where all good conversations happen. And he says to me, so out of the blue, you know, he's just like, so.
I feel like that's always like,
the intro of like, oh boy. You know, if everybody has a soul, and the soul doesn't die, and I'm like, okay, right, yes, I'm on board with that. Yeah, I'm like, well, that's what I believe. And he says, so what you're saying is when you die and the soul doesn't die, so there's just a whole bunch of souls just floating around? And in my head, I'm like, yeah, we call those spirits, right? Like some people call them ghosts, some people call them yes, there are. In fact, there are. And he's just like, oh. You know, so his little brain is trying to understand and put it together, you know, at the young age that he is. But yes, exactly. That's what we're saying, that the soul is energy. It never dies. It has to move on to some place. And to say that I think that one of the main differences that I have come to understand for myself about religion versus spirituality is, it's about kind of removing the fear factor of it. Like, I think that, not to knock religion, but I'm going to in this statement, that, if you do or don't do certain things, like there are definitely consequences for doing and not doing certain things. But I think that we get locked into the idea of like, I'm going to heaven or I'm going to hell. Where are you going? Like these places, I mean, maybe, but are they out there? Like, is there really like a puffy cloud place with pearly gates? Is there really a dungeon with flames going on? I tend to think not. I just think there are different dimensions. I think that our souls pass into different dimensions. And I'm not going to so much believe that one is way up here and one is way down there. I think that they might all be at the same time, in the same place, in the same space.
But maybe it's on a different vibration.
A different vibration.
Maybe that's what has been the description of heaven and hell all these years, is that the idea that going to heaven means that you must have been a good person, you must have repented, right. You must have been
had a great moral compass,
like, right? All these things. And if you go to hell, then the opposite.
You're a bad person.
But maybe it's just literally the vibration,
right, of what you're experiencing when you pass from this life into another life. So if you were once a soul before you got here, you will be a soul again when you leave. And the big question is always like, well, where are we going? Well, we don't know. We don't know. And I'm going to blow people's minds maybe further to say that I believe in the human experience, we're one of the only beings that doesn't know. I think other dimensional beings do understand. It's the human experience where you're wiped. You start from scratch. It's a clean slate. And you have to remember, that's what we're here to do, remember who we are so we can grow and evolve in that way. Like Earth is supposed to be a very rapid fire lesson. Other dimensions, you literally, you might be there for, even though time is linear, forever, for 1,000,000 years, for 1,000,000,000 years, for galactics, or whatever, however you're measuring that. And it might look very different when you quote unquote die, but I believe that in the human experience, when your memories are wiped and you're supposed to start clean at a clean slate, you're here to understand who you really are and what is inside of you and how you are creating your own reality and how you're manifesting your own self and growing your own soul. So through this rapid fire experience, like I've definitely heard that Earth is the hardest assignment, and I hope that too. Fingers crossed. I maybe you don't need to come back to this one. But you're supposed to be here on a rapid fire plan of, we gotta get all these objectives done in the 80 some years, 90 some years you got, and then we're gonna go somewhere else, so into another dimension. And yes, I do believe that our loved ones, because I am a medium, are on the other side. It's the other side of the veil. It's just another dimension. So it's talking about, how do you cross that dimension? You do it with your mind. You allow the vibration to cross over into a different vibration so that then you can communicate between the dimensions. I think that is very interesting, because a lot of times in religion, that's where we get caught in like, oh, you're not supposed to do that. You're not allowed to do that. I have a hard time understanding how that is different than praying. Because if you're praying to a God or praying to a historical figure, Virgin Mother Mary or Jesus or Moses or whoever, you are resonating with, and you're praying to them, you're doing the same thing. You're praying across the dimensional line. You're communicating with them, your hopes, your dreams, your faith, right? So it's the same idea as communicating with others who have passed on. So, but people get fear. They get scared, and I get it. Like it's very scary. Like you don't want to make a wrong move and end up falling off the edge into like the fiery pit.
You don't want to be wrong and be like, oh well, I guess maybe next time.
And there will be a next time. That's the thing. There will be. But we get fearful of like, well, where are my loved ones? So they're right in a different dimension. And since time is linear and only exists here, yes, they are waiting. Yes, they will be there. Yes, they will exist when you get there. And then you will decide on reassignments. Or maybe they already reassigned. It doesn't mean they're not there. It doesn't mean they're not still communicating and waiting and loving you, and communicating those things from the other side. So I think that people sometimes they get really freaked out about things like, oh my God, that's very scary from the other side. Why? Like, knocking is not scary. Like, it's a noise. That's it.
Yeah.
It's just an alert to tell you they're there. If you open the door and there was a person standing there with a knife, like, that's scary. Like, that's not what a knock I want to answer. Like, I don't even see who's knocking in a medium kind of communication. So I feel like what's here truly for me is scarier than what's there.
Well, I do think that, because it's literally in the title of the unknown, like, I think it's the unknown that makes people so fearful too. So obviously when they don't know,
and it's okay to not know,
but
right?
It's definitely okay. But I think that your mind can create a whole bunch of scenarios that are more fearful sometimes than actual,
right? Than like what's actually there.
Whatever,
yeah.
But.
So, I mean, for me, when I get signs from the other side, I celebrate. I think that's awesome. I think it's so cool that we can communicate across this veil, this different dimensional barrier, with our pets, with our loved ones. To me, it just revs me up, and I'm like, that's so awesome! Yay!
It's very exciting to be able to get signs, and I feel like most of the time mine are coming from my animals and other animals that I was close to, and I love that so much. And I look at it. I very rarely do I look at it as anything other than a positive,
right?
Or a reassurance, like they're with me.
Reassurance, right?
They're walking with me.
Like, we're right here. That's what I hear when I see it. Like, that we're right here. We're right here. It's not some foreign land that we can't reach, or we need a certain, I don't know, dial tone to get to, or something like that.
Dial tone.
This is a collect call.
Do I even have dial tones anymore? Not really.
But yeah, I can't tell you what to think or whatever, but for me, I love it when you celebrate receiving signs from others versus being afraid and questioning it. Questioning things is totally fine. I question a lot of things, which is how I ended up here where I am. But I'm not really afraid of it. Like, I'm not, it doesn't scare me anymore. It's not freaking me out. I look at it as confirmation of communication. It's just another method of communication. So if our prayers work telepathically, in my mind, mediumship works telepathically. Now, the same thing with like prayer and meditation. Prayer is asking. You're asking something, some consciousness. Meditation is downloading. It's, so you want information to come to you. You want answers to come to you. Praying is offering. So you're offering out your love or your prayers for others or the well-being to other people. And meditation is asking for that healing and the information to come to you. So it's a two-way street, so the same thing with prayer, meditation, spirituality, and religion. And they, I think, try to accomplish the same things, but I think people get very entangled in the structure, and it's a system, and it's created to be a system. And how much of that system do you buy into, and how much do you allow yourself to come to understand why you're here anyway, and understanding, in my opinion, that the consciousness, the universal source is part of all of us. We all come from some place, and it is all part of us. We are, that is the whole, like, I am statement. I am, I am part of this. And we all have that power. We all have that connection. And, that's why they say there's power in prayer, there's power in meditation, there's power in collective processes like that. When you sit down and you meditate together, which we've done, we've had groups where we meditate together, and we focus our intention on something specific so that we have a positive outcome shifting towards that. So, prayer groups, meditation groups, Reiki groups, things like that. It's all about setting the intention and letting the energy flow in a positive way.
Even when we do things like the crystal grids and such,
Definitely.
it's harnessing the power of one into a collective. And when the intentions or the purpose are all very similar to each other, it just boosts and enhances. So that's,
Yeah, we just did last week. We were away and we did a couple of cave adventure tours, which is super cool. But the crystals are forming in the caves, and they show you like this is an amethyst cluster, this is a citrine cluster, and you can see it in the cave, like where it originated from, where it's coming from. And they tell you, the tour guides, in a non-spiritual way, yes, they are vibrating. Yes, they are vibrating in a certain pattern, in a certain way to create the color, to create the dimension, to create the pattern, or the way the rocks are formed, the crystals are formed. And therefore they carry their own amplifiers, basically. So I think it's really funny that then people are like, oh, they're just rocks. Like they're doing something. Yeah. They have their own energy. They're created with their own energy. And if you are into things like the Atlanteans and the Palladians and things like that, I mean, their entire civilizations were run on the power of crystals. Just like your cell phone, by the way, has crystals in it.
Just like
watches, they all run on crystals. And we
medical equipment too. A lot of medical equipment.
The biocharger. I mean, we have all these things that run with crystals energy, and yet at us normal folk, I'm gonna say, oh, that can't be, like, that doesn't work. That can't be a thing. Like, they're just rocks. No, they're not. They're not just rocks. And there's whole civilizations, if you believe that amplified the powers of those crystals and did quite amazing things that we don't do now. And probably to their downfall at some point, however they extinguished themselves, they extinguished the technology that went with it. So it's for us to learn again or use differently. Same thing with other energy sources. So in any case, I hope that kind of explains a little bit about the difference.
I think we got a little off topic too, a little bit, like not shocking. It should just be like, the title should just be like whatever comes to mind.
Random thoughts of Lynn and Cheryl.
Well, no, I definitely think we talked about spirituality, but I think that for a lot of people, spirituality kind of just, is really entrenched in religion, and it doesn't need to be. I feel like with spirituality, there's a freeness to it that you don't
get
a
lack
with
of structure,
because it's all okay. If you want to stand out in your grass and watch the clouds go by, like that's like a form of feeling spiritual, and you feel a connection. Like, first of all, you're grounding because you're touching the earth, and you're looking at the sky, so you're looking like up to down kind of feeling, and it's just, and you sometimes feel a certain way when you're doing something like that. So I think that there's
the
lots
spirit
to be
moves
said.
you,
yeah,
right?
And it's just, or there's so many ways that you can be spiritual individually, with a group, and it doesn't have to be very structured. And I think that there's a nice freedom in that.
I agree. And I know people always come back to me and then they say things like, well, do you believe in bad energies as well? Do I believe? Yes, I do. There are, for every positive thing in our universe, there is a counterpart to it. So yes, there are negative energies as well as positive energies, and that's off the topic of spirituality per se. But when you're practicing in a spiritual way, it is about your intention. So we're not intentionally trying to attract negative things or negative ideas to ourselves. We set our intention that it's for our highest and best good. This is a positive experience. And sometimes in readings, people will ask me questions that I'm not going to say I struggle with the answer, but the answer doesn't come clearly. And I find that frustrating because, I want to give them an answer because they've asked. And the data, I'm going to say, is not flowing down. And then I remember at some point that I set the intention for the highest and best. And if the data is not coming and the answer isn't coming, it's usually in an area or a topic that it's not of our highest and best. And we don't need to know that, or I haven't allowed that energy to come through into that session. And that's why we're not getting the answer to that.
Yeah. I feel like that's a kind of like very much the same thing as things unanswered prayers. or things that you wished for didn't come true, like those kind of things, like because it does not serve you. And it could be quite negative. It could be against the whole reason, your whole purpose, their whole like soul mission. So, you know, there's a lot of times you could probably look back on something that you really wished for, you really hoped for, or, you know, relationship to work out or something. And looking back, you're like, if that had run a course that was not what actually happened, this wouldn't be what's currently happening. And, you know, that's...
And to the actual same but flip side of that is to say that if I do get the answer and it is correct, it still has the same butterfly effect that you talked about. So you knowing the answer to the information, if it sets you off on a trajectory that you were not intended to be on because now you know, that also alters other things.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not intended to know, you're not going to know.
It almost feels like Back to the Future, like that, the movie, you know, is what
kind
I'm
of
referring
is,
to,
right.
where like, you know, it's you,
Okay, Marty.
you alter the whole future going forward, or the whole future now, the whole now.
Just need the DeLorean. Yeah.
And what, plutonium? Is that what it is? Plutonium? Is that what they need for?
Maybe.
Plutonium, I think, is what runs that thing. I don't know.
Some crystal energy, right? Or
probably.
I don't know what it is.
Lightning.
Lightning?
Like the lightning strike.
Right, yes. I'm remembering now.
On my car.
Yes.
Like, I don't know.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's been a minute.
It has. That. In any case, I hope that we've touched on some things today that make you think and make you question, because I believe it's okay to question. We're in a point right now in our society where we should be questioning everything. We should be looking at every system and questioning, why does this exist? Who does it serve? And does it serve our sole purpose? Because I am fully believing that a lot of the systems that are existing and creating do not. They serve someone and something and some institution. Are they serving you and your mission here and what your purpose is? And, you know, I'm not saying it's an easy exit to say like, oh no, working 9 to 5 doesn't serve my soul and therefore I'm going to quit my job. Maybe none of us are intended to have jobs anyway. And I'm not saying I'm quitting my job at this, you know, but when you think about the system and how you get stuck in a system, you know, what were we intended to do? Are we intended to sit at a computer all day? Are we not? And for me, that's probably a whole different podcast, but like I got to that point where it was so uncomfortable to be in a structured system of 9 to 5. My soul felt so uncomfortable.
Suffocated.
Yes, that I couldn't do it anymore. And then so I was like, I have to work for myself. And that's not for everybody. But for me, I was very uncomfortable to the point where, okay, I had to move. I had to make a change. I had to do something because it just, I felt like I was wrestling with myself every single day. You know, but that's the soul, right? That's being moved through your soul to do something different. So in any case, I hope that we've touched on this enough and we've kind of rambled on a long time so that there's some good things to chew on. In your brain.
That's right. And if you guys have any thoughts, let us know. Anything you want us to expand on, we can certainly try to do that. I'm always very interested in other kinds of beings and other kind of spiritual figures, and that, you know, sometimes I feel like we don't always have enough knowledge of to provide to you. So, you know, maybe it gives us a reason to look some things up and explore things and understand and get information and all that kind of stuff.
And as we sign off, just as we started at the beginning, it's not intended to offend anyone. It's just our view of it and what we feel.
Everybody's going to feel something different and think something, and that's okay. I mean, that's what makes us us.
It's totally okay. Yep. All right. Till next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.